Okay, before we get started, this account was created to provide information on how current immigration laws apply to certain factual scenarios. There are many people, I suspect, who are worried about their immigration situation but are not sure if they should speak with an immigration attorney. Keep in mind, and I cannot stress this enough, that immigration law is unbelievably fact-specific. So even if the hypothetical that I analyze here sounds nearly identical to your situation, you still need to speak to an immigration attorney. The smallest factual differences can change everything. That said, this is not legal advice. I'm merely hoping to educate some people on how the immigration laws work, because I know that a lot of anxiety exists out in certain immigrant communities. Also, immigration laws and procedures will likely change significantly over the next few months, so what might be accurate and current at the time of recording could be outdated in the weeks to come or even tomorrow. All right, so let's go over some different non-immigrant employment-based visas. All right, so there are a large number of non-immigrant employment-based visas, but what we're going to go over today would be H-1Bs, TN visas, E-3 visas, H-1B1 visas, and O-1 visas for business. So the H-1B visa, a lot of people have heard of it. It's generally associated with the tech industry, but any job, any specialty occupation that requires a bachelor's degree or higher in order to perform it can be considered an H-1B. So think of accountants, attorneys, financial analysts, any type of engineer, software engineer, mechanical engineer, anything like that. Those would all fall under the H-1B. There's an educational background that is generally associated with being an accountant or being an engineer. So the closer the link between the education and the job, the stronger the case is for an H-1B. The H-1B has a numerical limit per year. So there are 65,000 H-1Bs that are allowed to be given out. There's an additional 20,000 for individuals that have a master's degree or higher. So a total of 85,000 H-1Bs every year. There are generally many more than that employers apply for, though. So it could be 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. So the percentage of getting selected in the lottery can be pretty low. It can be 11%, 30%. Anything in there has been common over the last few years. So the process that you go through for that is that you find an employer that is willing to go through this process with you. In March, you register for the lottery. In April, you find out if you're selected, and then you apply for the petition. Then USCIS will tell you if you're approved. And if you are approved, then in October, on October 1st, you would start working on your H-1B. Let's go over some of the other options because of the lottery system, it's not an ideal situation. So there are some other ones that could apply to you depending on what country you're from. So H-1B1 visas. These are for Singaporeans and Chileans only. All right. They do have a cap of 6,800 H-1B1 visas that are allowed to be given out every year. However, because it's only given to those two countries, that cap is rarely met. So other than that, it's basically the exact same thing as the H-1B. You still have to have a specialty occupation. You still have to have a higher education that prepares you for that job in order to qualify. One difference between the H-1B1 and the H-1B is that with the H-1B, you're allowed to have the intent to live permanently in the United States. So what does that mean? If you get on the H-1B and you also want to get a green card and live here permanently, that's okay. The H-1B1 does not allow that. So if you are intending to get a green card from the H-1B1, then you have to be careful with the way you proceed with that, okay? Because you might not be able to do an adjustment of status. You might have to process at the consulate. For something like that, you definitely want to talk to an immigration attorney to figure out what the process would be. The E-3 visa, these are basically H-1Bs that are just for Australians, okay? Again, it does have its own cap of 10,500. However, that cap is rarely met, so it rarely involves any kind of lottery system or or numbers running out. I've never been in a situation where we were going for an E3, but the numbers ran out, so we had to wait till next year. It's just very rare. But other than that, it's basically the same thing as the H-1B. Again, the E3 does not allow for that immigrant intent, which we often call dual intent, okay? The TN visa. The TN visa is similar in some ways, but it is quite different from the other ones. So the TN visa, it's not defined as a specialty occupation that requires a higher education in order to perform it. With the TN visa, there's a very defined list of about 40 to 50 occupations that can apply for the TN. The TN was created by NAFTA originally. Now it is still part of the USMCA. So you can still get a TN visa even though NAFTA is no more. You have to be a Canadian or a Mexican in order to get a TN visa. I'm not going to go over all the different jobs that are on that list, but physical therapists, occupational therapists, accountants, architects, attorneys, computer systems analysts, management consultants, those are all on that list, and there are plenty of others, hotel managers, a lot of things in the healthcare field would be on there as well, mathematicians, all that type of stuff. You have to have an employer still, okay? So you have to have someone, a US employer in the United States that is interested in hiring you, and you would have to have an employment letter that you're going to include in your packet for the TN. The process is a little bit different for Canadians than it is for Mexicans. So Canadians need to, well, they can just go to the border, okay, the port of entry, and give their filing to the CBP officer at the border, and they can approve it. Whereas Mexicans cannot just go to the border. They have to get an appointment at the consulate, have someone review it, and then the visa would be issued to them. So a little bit different process. A TN visa doesn't have the lottery system. You don't have to apply in April and then get approved in October. You can generally get a TN done within a couple of months of starting. So that's a plus for that. Once again, the TN does not allow for that dual intent, the immigrant intent, to stay permanently in the United States. So it is a temporary work visa, and you have to have that intent to only work temporarily in the United States. So if you are interested in a green card, then you would want to talk to an immigration attorney on the best way to move forward through that process from TN to green card. The O1 visa is going to be different. It is still a temporary work visa. It does allow for dual intent, but with an O1 visa, this is basically the superstar visa. So you have to show that you have extraordinary ability in business in this case. So you'd want to show that you've had high remuneration, so you've been paid a high salary for the work you do. Maybe you have patents in your name. You've been published, okay, published articles or published in well-known journals, that you've worked for prestigious companies, or maybe you worked at a startup that was later bought by a larger company, and you made quite a bit of money from that. All of those would be great support for an O1 visa. There's a lot of other moving parts with an O1 visa. So if you think that maybe you fit in this extraordinary ability for business category, you would definitely want to talk to an immigration attorney and get a full evaluation on whether that's a viable option for you. The O1 visa also applies completely separately. It can apply to athletes, it can apply to science, it can apply to artists, musicians, anyone in the film industry, but that's for another discussion, because those the way they evaluate those cases is going to be very different than the way they evaluate an O1 for business. Hopefully that's a good primer to kind of help you understand the differences between these and help you get a better picture for which one of these might fit your situation. If you need any help in applying for these or exploring these options further, you can call us, DM me, call our office, and set up a time to talk about your specific situation. Good luck to everyone, and take care.